young athletes to achieve their very best outside the game. And like every show, we're blessed and graced to have another awesome guest. And y'all know how I do. I'm going to go ahead and let him introduce himself.
My name is Bryson Rosser. I'm currently the Associate Athletic Director at Belmont Hill School and the head football coach there as well.
We appreciate you, Bryson, for joining us.
Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Where you originally born and raised, man, for those that don't know you?
Yeah, so originally born in Hackensack, raised in Patterson, and then went into high school in Hackensack. So I like to say Patterson born and raised because that's where I learned everything I needed to learn. And then I just fine-tuned some things when I got to Hackensack.
Cool. So those that have watched the show over these first 2 seasons, now in our 3rd season, you know that I am originally born and raised in Patterson. And so this is another guest for me that so excited to have Bryson, Mr. Rosser, on this platform with us because he was a part of my life in football growing up. I didn't play Little League. Had a brother who coached Little League and kind of was around the programs. Didn't end up playing until I went on in high school. And so one of the awesome things I always give credit to is coaches that sacrifice their family time to really pour into our young athletes. And so one of my coaches in high school was the great Barry Rosser, which is the father of Bryson. And so during my 4 years at Eastside, I had little Bryson running around and he was really a part of our program. So to see the things that I've been able to watch him do over the last, I guess 10 plus years has been awesome. And it's a blessing to have him on the show, for him to just really be able to talk about not only his career playing football, but then going on to be an awesome coach and accomplishing some awesome things. So Bryson, man, you ready to get into it?
Yeah, I'm ready to go. Let's go.
All right. So you say you coach football. So we'll ask, what was your first connection to sports? Was it just football, or was there some other sports that you played?
So, I grew up a coach's kid. So you're always around sports no matter what. And, first season that comes around is football. And my dad was obviously he was a good college football player himself and got into coaching. And so I think, man, as young as maybe 3 or 4 years old, my mom, who was also a public school teacher in Patterson, was dropping me off at practice just to be with my dad. So yeah, I got around football first, and and then he was coaching basketball as well, was around him with that. And so like I grew up around athletics, man, pretty much my entire life.
All right. When did you start participating in sports?
I'm going to say as young as that, but I mean, I guess organized sports, like I say, about maybe 6 years old, being around it so much. My dad was like, he's tired of, watching over me at practice. And if you remember, Pal East, I think used to practice at the same field,
yeah.
Probably before or after practice, or maybe on like a small part of the field. So it was very easy for him to like get me into organized sports. So I believe I started playing football at maybe 6 years old.
All right. And so outside of football, what were the other sports that you say you were able to play?
So I did basketball, and then I did baseball for a little bit. And I like to say that I retired early, and then went into track and field. But, it was 2 sports in which my dad was coaching, so I was able to be around that a bunch. The good thing about it was he never pressured me to play any sports. He just wanted me to have something that I was able to do. Academics was still key and number one in our household. You guys didn't notice when you were on the field at practice in high school, but when my mom dropped me off, I used to have to finish my homework, and the trainer would have to check my homework before I came out and was able to like run around the field. So the academics part was first. Then that allowed me the opportunities to play, any sport I really wanted to play, and got to try a bunch of different things.
All right. So you said the trainer had to check your homework, correct?
Yeah.
Are we talking about Miss Jeannie Black, Jeannie Fleming?
Yes, Miss Fleming. Yes. I used to have to finish my homework, show it to her. I mean, I'm pretty sure it was right most of the time, but she knew I just wanted to hurry up and get outside. So she did a quick check over, but she would have to give my dad the thumbs up before me and my sister, who used to get dropped off in practice sometimes, like that would allow us to go out and play.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So which was what I always like to ask athletes, when you're around your father with the football and basketball, but at that age, could you remember like which sport did you really enjoy the most?
I mean, football was more so like just for fun.
Uh-huh.
And, Jersey's also a big basketball state. So like I thought basketball was my first love. And, I kind of held on to that for a while. And playing football was cool for me. Like I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't putting in the grind like I really like thought I was. Basketball was first love, but as they say, football ended up paying the bills and taking care of school a little bit later for me. So I was just glad that I was able to participate in both of those for as many years as I did.
That's good. So we're gonna get into the fact that you were able to play football at a high level, to go on and play collegiately. But at what point did you kind of recognize, hey, I'm pretty good at what I'm doing? At what stage did you kind of notice that?
I'm not gonna lie, it probably took a while. And my dad would tell you this too. I think I was a late bloomer when it came to the athletics standpoint. I was fortunate to have the opportunity to, advance a little further in academics early on. And I was able to, kind of upgrade and academically and kind of jumped halfway a year up to a higher grade. So the academics was always going to be first. And, a lot of people knock that at the time, because they said he's going to be a little bit behind age-wise when it comes to athletics. And he said that he didn't care about that because it was all about getting that diploma and getting those degrees. So I was always, probably a step slower, not as tall, not as athletic as the guys I played with because I was, kind of a year behind or 2 years behind. So it took me a little while to kind of feel myself from an athletic standpoint, but was able to have some success in high school and my junior year, I was a 15, 16-year-old junior in high school, and we were able to win a state championship in football. And that's when I, kind of saw like, all right, like I might be able to do this a little bit better than the other one and started to focus my efforts on football a little bit more.
Okay. So the good thing, sometimes it's later on in the show that we really zone in on academics, but the good thing is just hearing someone like yourself who had the good background and your parents really just pushing the academic in. What was it that helped you kind of stay focused and really zoned in on making your academics a priority at an early age?
To be honest, I couldn't participate in one until I did the other.
Okay.
And, growing up in a household with two educators, it wasn't, you weren't slipping at all. Homework had to be done. We had extra projects we had to do in the summertime before we went out and played. If I wanted to go to a camp, sometimes you got to work it off. I had to work it off in the classroom to make sure everything was always above the line, not at the line. So that was just a big thing for them to just continue to push because they said at the end of the day, athletics, it ends for all of us in some way, shape, or form, playing wise, but the academics and the accomplishments you have in the classroom will carry you for the rest of your life.
That's good. It is for me, again, just awesome to have Bryson on because I already know we're going to touch on it. The awesome things he's been able to do outside of this. Well, I won't say outside of the sport as much as beyond being on the field himself, because he's done a lot of impact in a lot of young people's lives. I've been able to watch some videos and just hear some of the young players that he's coached in Tennessee talk about just having them around as a second father figure and how he impacted lives. And I think that's so important. I think not only for athletes to really zone in on being great fathers themselves, but even just being able to give back in some way to the community or to other athletes coming up behind them. So that's why it's such an awesome, and people don't know how special this is to have him on and just being able to see the things he's accomplished. So you talk about the academic. Are those some things that you've pressed with your players as you were able to go on to then become a coach? And we're going to touch on time at Tennessee State, but when you became a coach, what are some things that you really pressed with your players too? Some of the things you were able to get ingrained in you from your parents?
Well, it's funny, it's funny you say that because like I wasn't really sure if coaching was in my future. Obviously, you grow up and you hear Coach BR, and that's Pops, and he was doing his thing. But I was able to live what he was doing day in and day out, right? So I saw
Gotcha.
guys like you and Kawisi and Henry Baker and a whole lot of other guys in which he was that for you guys on the field,
All right.
and so it's funny sometimes, the parents kind of see the vision more than you do, especially when you're growing up. But man, it was almost like an easy thing to do once I became a coach. If
Okay.
I could instill in them the things that was taught to me, it was you take care of your academics, you take care of things off the field, things on the field they're taken care of as well. And so it was really cool to kind of watch, and I say like the things I'm doing now is within the sport, it's not beyond the sport, just because like everything that was instilled in me, I tried to instill in the young men and the young women, at the school in which I was at, before. It's like the values of the education, the academics, and how it can put you so much further than the stats that you're going to have.
That's good. That's good. So I'm gonna backtrack a little bit to high school. As you get, I guess I'll ask you, at what period in your time at Hackensack do you start really looking in and zoning in to going to the next level in football? Or at what point did you start really focusing in on that?
I would say sophomore year.
Okay.
In the household, we always spoke. You're gonna play. You have to do something every season. You you
Right.
weren't allowed to come home right after school, so that was one. And then two, it's like as you feel more comfortable. We always had conversations about what's feeling good, what do you feel stronger in. And I think sophomore year, after sophomore year, when I knew I was kind of fighting for the starting job going into my junior year, I asked my father to go to camps, quarterback camp. I played quarterback. My dad played quarterback. He never forced me to play quarterback, which was cool. And it's funny, we're finding all these articles about him. I think he was the first Black quarterback at Cornell in
Wow.
1971, and it's cool kind of watch these articles and footage come up. But going into my junior year, it was all right. I'm fighting for the starting spot. I need to get better. I want to get better. And my dad, he didn't really coach me. I went against him in high school a couple of times, which we can touch on that too. But he always said, "Hey, you got to go get your knowledge somewhere else because I don't have all the answers." And that was always the biggest thing.
Wow.
He always didn't claim to know everything. He said, "I'm happy to send you where you want to go to get better." So it was right before junior year where I said, I'm gonna commit myself to more camps, kind of more of the off-season grind for football, and get ready for that going into the fall.
Okay. All right. So as you start the process of really the recruiting process and deciding where you're gonna go, what was that like for you at Hackensack?
It was interesting, man, because first thing my parents told me is like the world is big. You don't have to pick anywhere right away, and you don't have to pick somewhere close to home. They said you can always come home. So we want you to broaden your horizons as much as you possibly could. And then another great thing they did with me was, my father and I are part of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity
Uh-huh.
Incorporated, and they had a Black college tour.
Gotcha.
And he sent me on Black college tour. And for 7 days, I think we went to 12 HBCUs down the East Coast, maybe to DC and back, or maybe, North Virginia or whatever and back. And then, man, that started to open my eyes. And I was also going through this with other high schoolers that were also thinking about school. So we're having, conversations, thoughts about what you want to study, what you play, so on and so forth. So like, I think I did that the summer of my sophomore year as well, or going to my junior year, sorry. So that kind of broadened the horizon. And then it was just consistent conversations, man. They're like, what are you thinking? What do you want to study? And really in high school, like, you don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know where I want to go. Or you have like these lists of schools that may or may not be attainable, but they were like, look, whatever's on your list, we're going to reach for it, and then we'll see what happens. Um, it didn't really become more of an athletic side of it until going to my senior year when recruiting started.
Okay. All right. So what brought you to choosing to play at Tennessee State?
So, to be honest, like, I had aspirations of going to play Division I college ball like everybody else, right? And I had a bunch of I had a bunch of schools on my list that were considered big names at the time. And I wasn't getting recruited by them.
Okay.
And I probably, I'm more than likely could get into the school academically. But I was starting to get that itch for football. Like, yeah, like I really want to play football on the next level. And then, after a while, I told my dad, I'm like, look, it doesn't matter where. I just want to play. I feel like I was finally starting to catch up, with myself physically, athletically, like I was telling you from before, and I was starting to feel good about the ability I had. And, recruiting just wasn't happening. And it's not the same now as it was like, social media and seeing who's getting offered this is that, but I was hearing it, I was seeing it, and my friends, my peers were getting offers right and left, and I wasn't. And man, it took, Thanksgiving Day game playing against Teaneck. My junior year, there was a coach on Tennessee State University staff, Dwayne Thomas, who's from Paterson, New Jersey as well. And man, he just happened to be up there for the holidays and kind of heard of our team. And we had a really good team, ranked very high nationally in the state. And they just happened to be looking for a quarterback. And, when it started to get real, I didn't want to go that far away. I was like, I've never been to Tennessee and I don't know what's going on. And, I hear all these great things about the schools, and had visited HBCUs, but not that far out. Mm-hmm. And I was very hesitant to going on a visit, hesitant when they were calling the house, hesitant when they wanted to visit with me up there. And then I actually go down there and visit, and it was just an unbelievable place. And I felt like it was a place not only where I could get an opportunity to play, if I could get a good education, and I could grow as a young man. And that was the big thing that my parents wanted to see for me as well. So it was just ended up being a great opportunity. Nashville is an unbelievable place. And I did the majority of my growing up, man, once I left to go to school.
Okay. All right. So you choose to go to Tennessee State. And did you play there all 4 years?
Yep. I redshirted my first year and then started 3 out of 4 years there.
All right. So what was that experience like? What were some of your greatest memories and accomplishments there at Tennessee State?
Well, the first part was, not knowing a lot about that region. I didn't realize Tennessee State was, what they call an FCS school or a Division I AA school. Right. So in my mind, I'm like, oh, wow, I actually did make it to Division I and wasn't even thinking about it. It's amazing what the world brings to you when you're not just focused on the glitz and glamour of certain schools or what other people are telling you, so on and so forth. It's amazing what happens when you find the right school for you. And that was the right school for me. I was able to redshirt the first year, which, again, going back to my past story, helped me catch up even more physically and athletically. And then redshirt freshman year, I was able to work my butt off, and I actually ended up starting as a redshirt freshman. Got hurt that first year, came back, started middle of my sophomore year, started all of junior year, and started senior year. And then my career ended third game of the season with another injury. So when I was healthy, I started. But unfortunately, a little bit of adversity here and there, caused me to just become more of a student of the game. And I think ultimately is what pushed me into the coaching career.
So I think it's good you touch on that, because that is something I talk to, able to talk to athletes about here and there. I've had some guests or even people that I've reached out to be guests. And that's been a conversation just that I try to just really make sure athletes understand that, one, a small percentage make it to college, then an even smaller percentage makes it professionally. But even outside of those statistics, you have the situation where every now and then injuries happen. And so in your case, even your senior, you said you had the injury early and then again another one in your senior year. Like, what were your feelings and what did you go through emotionally, just recognizing that, hey, this is it from a playing standpoint? Like, what was it like going through that, recognizing that this was it?
Well, to go back to the last one, I had to think about it. I don't know if I gave everything on it, but, obviously some of my highlights was, obviously winning some big games against ranked opponents. Winning homecoming is always a good thing on the HBCU campus. And I was able to end my career in, again, I think 3 or 4 statistical categories in the top 10 all time, which was great. But
it's good.
Going back to it, the injuries part, man, was just weird because, the injury that I had, ended up being like a stress fracture. My freshman year was a stress fracture on my left foot, which just kind of comes from like overworking or a quick tweak. And, in my mind, I'm like, you got to keep a job in college by keep working, keep grinding. And then unfortunately, the same injury happened to the other foot my senior year.
Wow.
And that was demoralizing. And that was a time where I said I was done with football.
Okay.
And then, it happened so early in my senior year that it was like week 2, week 3, and they were like, it's a possibility you can come back. So you get surgery, get a pin, put in, and then we'll see what happens, so on and so forth. And my dad came down for the surgery, and I'm just like super mad, don't want to be a part of football anymore. I can't stand it. Can't believe this happened to me. Who does this happen to? I've done everything right, or at least I thought to that point. And then my dad says to me, your best football is still ahead of you. Wow. And I listened to him, and I'm like, yeah, like whatever, man. Like, and nobody wants to hear that. You don't want to hear that when you're hurt and laying in the hospital bed. But he said, watch, like your best football is still ahead of you. And, I just had to kind of take that as it was. I was able to finish up, get my degree. I went right back and got my master's at Tennessee State as well. And then started being a GA at Tennessee State as a coach. I wasn't granted the 6 year of eligibility, but I was offered an opportunity to stay on the sideline and kind of help the guys that I played with for the last couple of years. So as much as I didn't want it, I think God and the world was trying to tell me some other different things. And so I had to kind of follow that itch that was happening.
That's good. That's good. So you go on to then end up coaching. How did that come about to get the head coaching job at the high school there in Tennessee?
Yes. So, I GA'd for 2 years at Tennessee State while I got my master's. And then I started elementary teaching. I taught 4th grade for about 4 years in Nashville. During a community service project, I crossed paths with the Coach Scott Blade at Hillsborough High School. I come on as an assistant with him. My first year as an assistant with him in 2008, we won the state championship at Hillsborough High School in Nashville. And so he gets a job at Oak Ridge, Tennessee. And I go with him as an assistant. I'm there for 4 years. And then I leave Tennessee and go to New Jersey. So I come up to Hackensack, and I was assistant head coach with Benji Wimberly, who at my alma mater, Hackensack High. And I was there for 2 years. And then, man, an opportunity came up that called me, and I was offered the head coaching job at Knoxville Central High School in 2014. And it was with a principal who I had come to know, really appreciated, an African-American male in the administrative position in Knoxville, which was a good thing. And man, I took a chance. And, like I said before in the beginning, my dad said, you can always come back home. So he said, look, you got to go take this opportunity and see what happens. And so I decided to go down to Knoxville in 2014 and became the head coach there.
Wow. And so when you took on that position, like, it's just tell us, I know so much. I was able to my brother always kind of kept my ears open to some of the things you were accomplishing. So I was watching, like instantly you went to the high school there. And what were some of the things you were able to accomplish there?
More than anything, man, I was able to set a culture.
Right.
It was a very storied school with a lot of success. And like the only thing that just hadn't happened is they hadn't won the big one. They kind of got into the quarterfinals, semifinals, and just never had the state championship. And the school's been around 115 plus years or so. So the most important thing I got to do was build a culture. I got to get young men from all walks of life and kind of set a mission and a vision that was the same thing I was taught, right? If you take care of things off the field, things on the field will happen. And so that was academics. It was study hall. It was community service. It was looking out for one another, doing homework together. In my first year, we went 5-5, made the playoffs, lost in the first round. Great start. Year 2, we went 7-3. Yeah, 7-3, won a first round playoff game and lost in the second round, finished 8-4. My third year, we started off, I think 1-3, and then finished that season 7-3, and then made it to the state championship game and came up short. It was an unbelievable journey with that group of young men. So in year 3, you make it to the state championship game, and you're like, man, we got to get back. And honestly, it happened real fast, but we were doing a lot of good things from a culture standpoint that I felt really good about. And so did the kids. Year 4, we had a little bit of adversity. I think we started 1-2 again. Somehow we made it 8-6 and made it to the semifinal game. So we came up one game short. And then everything lined up right for us, man. And we had the group of kids that I kind of built this culture with from a young standpoint, and started off 1-2 again, and then ended up making our way all the way to the state championship game and finally winning the school's first state championship. In
Wow.
2018, we went 13-2 and finished off that. And then, once a culture is set, and you can get things rolling, it starts to happen in a good way for you. So then we came back, went 8-0 the next year, lost the last 2 games of the season, which was a little bit nerve-wracking, and then ended up finishing off the playoffs the right way and went 13-2 state champs again. So we went back-to-back state champs, 2018, 2019. It's an unbelievable run of 6 years there, completely appreciate all the effort and energy that the kids put in, the parents trusting me and the staff to coach them up and really teach them more things than we could ever. We ended up being those father figures to them. And that's what you were talking about, that you heard in some of those interviews, so on and so forth. But man, those things were special because we did some really special things off the field that a lot of people, we eventually started to show and put on social media, but a lot of people didn't see the things that we were doing behind closed doors, taking kids to colleges, showing them games, helping them study for, ACT, SAT, putting them on college tours.
That's good.
Doing study halls, just being like with them and making sure they'll be better off, even if they didn't go to school, for that sport.
That's good. That's good. Good information. And so I'll just ask, just in that process of being a coach and that time you were able to really pour into the kids in Tennessee, like what was your favorite part about being a coach?
Honestly, it was the thing that kind of hurt my feelings when I stopped playing. It was the game.
Right.
And it was, I have all this information, all this knowledge in my head, especially playing quarterback for, however amount of years, 15, 16 plus years, right? So like there's so much football I've been around. The fun part is how much of it and how can you find different ways to teach it to athletes.
Right.
And so like my guys would tell you, and kind of at the place I'm at now, right? Sometimes I jump in and practice and I'm like the scout team quarterback, right? Just because like I want guys thinking a certain type of way and I want to give them certain looks. But I really enjoy taking a group of young men, teaching them X's and O's that, you don't know what you don't know, right? And then fine tune it and refine it to where we could go out and perform on a game day or a game night and say, hey, we were successful because of the stuff we learned and we're able to execute at a high efficiency.
All right. So you have this awesome run in Tennessee. You went back-to-back championships, and now you have to make a transition. What caused the transition?
Yeah. So during the time that I'm in Knoxville, I actually crossed paths with my wife now, Brooke, who was doing some doctoral work at the University of Tennessee. We knew each other in Nashville, which is crazy. So she went to Vanderbilt, I went to Tennessee State. They're like 8 miles apart. We knew each other, had similar friend groups. We crossed paths again, when I got the job in Knoxville. And then we ended up getting married in 2017. So, she was with me, along with me for the run. Definitely kept me grounded, kept me grinding. And, I appreciated her for all of that. But, it never becomes just about you when you get married. It becomes two instead of just one. And she has things and had something on her mind that she was looking forward to and trying to accomplish. And she got offered an unbelievable opportunity at Harvard Business School, working there in their admissions office and doing some other things on that campus. And, I honestly, I had to step out of the way. It wasn't just about me. I had got fortunate enough to have her move to Knoxville when I was there and be with me, while I was doing the things that I was pursuing. But at some point in time, I had to kind of step out the way and said, I'm going to go with her and help her pursue the things that she wanted to do. So after that 2019 season, at a time where, everyone felt, hey, you could do this forever. You can win state championships forever. It wasn't about that. It was about supporting her It was about her, pursuing her dreams and us making a move that was best for both of us. So in January of 2020, we moved up to Boston, Massachusetts. She started her job at Harvard Business School. And then I had to find somewhere new to kind of instill the culture and the things that were best taught to me. And I was very fortunate to find a school in Belmont Hill School, a small independent all boys school, grades 7 through 12. And it's a different challenge, right? You get so comfortable at one place, you have to kind of adapt. And there's a lot of things that have changed in the last 8 years of high school football. Any coach will tell you that, but kind of had to make that decision, man. And it wasn't one that I had to stress over. It was very easy. This is something you want. I was fortunate enough to accomplish the things I did at Tennessee. They always joke around and talk about you going out on top. I was fortunate to leave there with the state championship, let alone the second one. So, it wasn't too many bad things people could say once you leave and you're a state champ as you leave.
Right. Right. So awesome. Just, I think the example that you give in that just want young athletes to know when you have a love for sport, Coach Rosser has been able to go on and not only do well in the sport, but then he's also been able to impact young lives being a coach now, not only just coaching, but as an athletic director also. And so the reason he's able to do that is because he positioned himself by taking care of something that he talked about early in the show, the importance of academics. And even as he talked about being a student of the game, once he got injured, being a student in the game. So I think it's just the one thing I always want our young athletes to know, that you should always make sure first you're being a student first, and really just, growing when it comes to academics, because you never know where that can take you to. If Coach Rosser had not done what he needed to do in the classroom and really even on the football field being a student, he would not have positioned himself to not only get the head coaching job in Tennessee, but then be able to even relocate to another state and be on the path to accomplishing a lot of the same things. And so I just want our young athletes to know that it's nothing wrong with playing at the highest level. It's nothing wrong for wanting to spend the majority of life connected to a sport, whether it's playing or whether it's being a coach. However, you have to know that that sport is what you do. Coaching is what you do. Playing is what you do, but that's not who you are. And so, Coach Rosser, I'll just ask you to even touch on that for the young athlete. I don't know if there's something you touch on with your kids. Just touch on, the importance of understanding your identity outside of the sport.
Yeah, I think the first part that comes to my mind is, the jersey that you put on for whatever school you play for, whether it's high school, middle school, college. It's not your jersey, it's the school's jersey. So it's your opportunity to represent that jersey in the best way. When your name is on the back of it, yes, that is your jersey to represent who you are. And then people have a chance for you to showcase who you are and who you represent. I tell our guys all the time, when you're on the field, you represent yourself, your family, the coaching staff, the school. But when you take the jersey off, you still represent those same people. So you have to be mindful of what you're doing in the classroom. You can't be an all-star on the field and be a bench warmer in the classroom. The big thing for me that has been great is there's been a correlation between my study habits as a student and my study habits as a professional or as a coach. I don't have math equations and history lessons that I got to brush up on, but there's a stack of books right here that I read up on when it comes to coaching. I was just telling you a little bit ago, I was watching film on my team. That's my new study now. So once you establish good study habits, it never goes away. And another thing that that you were talking about that has been interesting for me that I've been able to see is even the professional guys are starting to go back and get their degree. Right. Because they see how important it is to them. I read something about Steph Curry, yes, going back and finishing his degree. I had a young man that played with me at Tennessee State University, Dominique Rogers-Camardi. Wow. Came in and was a first rounder out of Tennessee State, was able to play in a Super Bowl, was able to play in a Pro Bowl. I just saw a post he had last week that said he's going back to finish his degree. So even when you make it to the highest level, those athletes are still realizing that when the game is done, I still need that degree. I still need those academics to help me go on and be a better businessman, a better investor, a better businesswoman, just a better professional in life, because the sports will last. It just may not always last with you on the field. It may be other parts of it that you have to give your best to. And that's, like I said, a coach, a spectator, an influencer, a role model in some way, shape, or form, because there's always athletes coming right after you.
That's good. That's good. Well, we appreciate the information. What has the transition been like very early on, now transitioning Massachusetts at the new school that you're at? Just what are some of your goals, and what has the transition been like?
It's been fun. I got a chance to come in and, I didn't get the head coaching job right away. So I was able to be a part of a staff, which was established, which has had a lot of success. And I got a chance to learn and really see, I have a really great athletic director who's been in a position for 25 years. I get to learn from him. I had a head coach that's still on our staff, that's been the head coach for 14 years. So, these people have been in a position longer than me. So as a student, what do? Right? You raise your hand, you ask questions, you take notes, you see the things that they're doing so that I can be the best person in my position. And now going into my third year at this school, I just was promoted to head coach in February of this year. And it hasn't been a big, but I went from, assistant athletic director to associate athletic director. So I'm starting to prove myself to the people I work with that I want to keep asking questions. I want to keep learning, because I want to be the best person I can be from a professional standpoint, which is the same thing you do on the field, right?
Right.
When I was a high school player, I was asking coaches the questions so I could be on the field. Right now, I'm asking those questions so I could be the best AD I can be. And now, even being in a head coaching job, I'm still asking coaches around and guys that I've looked up to, things that they're doing so I can continue to be the best person I can be.
That's good. Well, we appreciate, again, just the great information. And so we're getting close to the end. Just the last couple of questions we always like to ask for the young athlete, maybe around you or the ones that's listening. Tell the young athlete, how important is it to have positive people in your circle?
It's the most important thing you can do. As a coach, I look at the peer groups of my players. The college coaches that are recruiting you are looking at the peer groups that you keep around you. Your principals and your teachers and your parents are watching the peer groups that are around you, because at the end of the day, the decisions you make are just for you. They're not going to be for the group of people that's around you. So you want to make sure you surround yourself with positive people. I was also taught, at a young age, I was around my dad, but I was watching guys like you in high school, right? So I was watching the things that you do. So we were talking about earlier going up to camp for preseason, right?
Right.
My dad used to always take me on that camp, right? And then I used to have to wake up 5 o'clock in the morning with you guys for practice when it was dark.
Right.
And I did not want to do that. But he always told me, you got to listen more than you talk. And so I used to have to sit in coaches meetings and in team meetings and just watch you guys.
Right.
And see the example you're setting and see what you're doing. And you guys didn't notice, but it was a lot of pressure on you to do that. And I'm fortunate to have that relationship with you guys now that is super positive. But man, it's so important to have positive people in your life. And also, there's always someone that's gone through what you're going through. So make sure you have someone that you can talk to always, whether it's a coach, an older cousin, a brother, a sister, an uncle, anybody. It's important to have somebody to talk to, because positive people keep you positive.
That's good.
Negative people will always keep you negative. So no matter who it is, you got to have at least one or two people that you can call on. Sometimes it's just to say hello, because there's a lot of people that are always thinking about you and support you. You never know that until you talk to them. But most important thing you can do is have a positive group of people around you. And again, these guys you see on TV, a lot of them have the right people around them. And like I said before, you're doing it right off the field, you're doing it right on the field. And you're starting to see that with a lot of these guys that are playing on a professional level.
That's good. Good information. And those that watch from the beginning know I already covered it. Just being blessed to have his father, Coach Barry Rosser, in my life, coaching me throughout the 4 years at Eastside High School in Paterson, New Jersey, and just the example that he was. And to see, it was coaches like himself and Coach Donald Davis, just seeing them with their children being a part, seeing Bryson being part of our program at a young age, and to see the success that he's gone on to have, not just in the sport, but in life. It really set the stage, and it's really a big example. And so I want young athletes to know, even as you grow, whether it's as an athlete or a coach or mentor or whatever like that, like these are opportunities, these platforms are opportunities for you to impact others. And I'm sure beyond the championships that Coach Rosser has had, it is even the impact that he's gone on to have on some of these young men's lives and the young women's lives outside of the sport. So it's great to have examples like himself. And we're going to close the show. We could talk for hours, man, but we're going to close the show with the question we always ask: who or what is it that inspires you in life?
Honestly, it's the young people that I get to be around. For whatever reason, I was meant to be in Knoxville, Tennessee for those 6 years. Those relationships will never go away. I'm fortunate to be in Boston right now. What gets me going, it's the people that I get to work with. And honestly, I say work for, because it's my job to work for them and with them and teach them the best things that I think are best for them, right? Because as coaches and as educators, it's your job, right? We impact the future in so many different ways. So that's what gets me going. That's what inspires me. Obviously, my pop still inspires me in so many different ways. Just the knowledge in which he has. My mom continues to hold me accountable and never let me get too high or be too low. My wife keeps me going in so many different ways and inspire me in that way. But for me, it's about the job and giving back the same things that were taught to me, whether it's by you and your teammates, whether it's by my dad, whether it's by teachers, whether it's by coaches. One other tip I have for young people is, make sure you thank someone along the way. There's a lot of people that are putting time, effort, energy, and money in to drop you off at practice, making sure you get the gear that you need, helping you in the college process, helping you at practice. It's one thing I started doing a little bit more, at the place I've been at, is players just saying thank you. Thank you goes a long way, especially to the people that get to fill up your cup in the cup of life. So, just continue to be mindful of that, the people that you have around you. But, what inspired me is the young people, because my dad always told me, the people that I get to coach, that age range never changes, but mine does. So even though I keep getting a little bit older, I keep having 15 to 18-year-olds that I get to impact, and little ones that are coming up from there too. So that's what inspires me.
That is awesome. Once again, we appreciate you for your time. Appreciate you for all the awesome information you've given to those that will have an opportunity to watch this show. We wish you the best in your position now, man. And we just thank you for what you're doing. I think it's important because I think as we work from different areas, me in the North Carolina area, the impact you've already had on the young people in Tennessee, now in Massachusetts. Yeah, I think it's a collaboration that we make across the country as we continue to try to see our young people grow and just become a better, we know who the future are. We know the future is in our young people. So as we continue to impact lives across the country in different perspectives, it is us working together, man. So continue doing what you're doing up there in Massachusetts. We thank you for the time that you've spent and joining us on today, man. I appreciate you.
Hey man, I thank you, and this platform is unbelievable, man. I've been watching a couple of your shows, and I will continue to watch, man. Continue to impact the world one episode at a time. I look forward to watching your progress.
Thank you, sir. So y'all know every show I end with this. It is good to be great in the sport that you're playing, but it's even better to be great in life. So if you're truly trying to achieve your best outside of the game, continue to just take the information that we're giving to you. It's important that you're intentional in applying it as we continue to go out and up. Thank you, and we'll see you next episode.